Hey guys, DMV SoloRider back with another video. We are heading out of Tazewell. We're gonna do what is supposed to be a nice scenic ride with some switchbacks and twisties called Head of the Dragon. Mostly in West Virginia, I believe. This is the route. Right up this way. Just gonna see how it is. This is just about the beginning of the ride, and it's already pretty twisty. I just filmed my Back of the Dragon ride this morning. Was not my best riding, not even close, but you guys may have already seen that video. Anyways, I figured I would touch base with you guys on the old FTR here and what my thoughts are about my motorcycling. Really, you know, whether I want to keep this bike or move to something else. And the reality is, it's June 2025. I started shopping for a new bagger in earnest probably around December. My goal at the time was to get a road glide, Harley-Davidson road glide. I thought, you know, start shopping in December. Maybe I'll get a good deal on a 2024 road glide, and off we go. The reality is a good deal was not to be had. You know, I'm going to pull my visor up. It's pretty toasty. I checked all the footage from my ride earlier and everything sounded fine. You know, when I'm done talking, because, you know, it's not like I got 90 miles of blathering to do. I'll probably pop some music on and we'll just show you the best parts of the ride. Something like that. But anyways, a deal on a road glide in December was not to be had. Mostly because of the FTR. Basically, Harley dealers really didn't want it, and the amount of money they'd give me for it was trifling. And, you know, when it comes to the FTR, the reality is, as beautiful as it is and as well reviewed as it is, it's not a popular bike. Indian has discontinued it as of the end of 2024, and I know from speaking with Indian dealer owners that they really hated the FTR because they found it really hard to get rid of them. You know, they'd get a bike in, it would sit on the showroom floor forever. They were not a fan, no matter how much, you know, motorcyclists raved about it. They just didn't love it. And, you know, in getting a new bike, the unfortunate reality is I can only have one at a time. Right now I live in a condo. I have a motorcycle parking area, and it's, you know, pretty full. You know, I got room for the FTR. I could put a bagger in there. Certainly can't keep two bikes there. There's not enough room. So the unfortunate reality is it's either keep the FTR or trade the FTR in for a new bike. There's no keeping them both. I think in my ideal life, I would keep the FTR forever because it's so fun, it's so unique, looks sensational, and I would be thrilled to keep it. I just can't. And, you know, I always have the option of, you know, it's got a note on it. I could pay it off and put it up for sale. The reality is, on the financial side of things, I can't pay off the FTR and go run out and get a bagger. You got to pay off the FTR and then actually wait until it sells. And, you know, it could take a while. You know, I don't want to do that and then not have a bagger. So anyways, long story short is the FTR is fantastic, but I can only have one bike. And, you know, if you watch my Back of the Dragon video, you know, it was uninspired riding It was not, basically, it was like watching a cruiser rider ride a sport bike, which is pretty much how I am on the FTR. You know, I can jam on the throttle on a straightaway or go fast around a sweeper, but when it comes to leaning the bike over and giving it the beans in the twisties, you know, if I'm going 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit, I'm good with that. Like I said, I don't have frame sliders on this, and I don't have leathers, and that's not really my cup of tea, to be honest. I love riding. I love feeling the bike under me. I love twisting the throttle. I love being outside. And yeah, I like corners, but you know, on a bagger, I'm not the guy you're gonna watch dragging metal through corners. And you know, it's just the way I am. It's what I'm comfortable with. For me, it's all about the overall experience. It's not about, you know, being a daredevil or proving anything. It's just the way it is. And so for me, a bagger is the ideal bike. As you may recall, I only traded in the Challenger for this because I had some personal things come up that prevented me from touring, and I just figured, you know, if I was going to be off the highway for a few years, I might as well try something fun and new, which I've done. That period of time ended up being much shorter than I anticipated, unfortunately. And on the financial side, you know, this is my 4th bike in 6 years. I've done pretty good on the dollars and cents on my motorcycling. You know, it's nothing that I consider an investment in the sense of, you know, oh, spend this and then you'll make money later on. Like, that has nothing to do with it. It's all about the experience for me. And, you know, I think all in all, I've spent about enough money to buy one bagger in cash, not including, you know, accessories and travel costs and gas and maintenance, just the, you know, what I've spent on the bikes themselves. Beautiful. And I'm totally comfortable with that, totally at peace with that. Don't have any regrets. Well, let me take a step back. I do regret not having the Challenger because it's just an amazing bike. And as much as I love this, you know, I would never choose this over a bagger, over a Challenger. It's time to get back on the highway. Time to do some road trips. You know, I just did my first trip trailering the FTR because, you know, like, yeah, I could ride the FTR from DC down to Tazewell, you know, what's it, 350, 400 miles. And by the time I got to Tazewell, I'd need to be in traction for a week before I could ride it again. That's not so great. So yeah, I want a bagger. Harley dealers are never going to do as well for you as an Indian dealer trying to trade in an Indian. And they certainly proved that point when I tried to buy a Road Glide in December. So I figured I'd hold off and, you know, see how the spring went. And then, unfortunately for me, Harley increased the price of the 2025, so the 2024s, if they would have been discounted, weren't getting discounted because they were already cheaper than the new ones. And at the same time, Indian discontinued the FTR, which means the market is flooded with them, you know, the ones that remain. And, you know, the market's flooded with bikes. Indian's offering $3,000 off an FTR, and dealers are discounting them even further. So, you know, trading in the FTR to get a bagger immediately was a losing proposition, at least on Harleys. And then, you know, 2024 Indian baggers went on sale. Indian started offering $3,000 off of those. And I figured, well, if I'm going to lose a little on the FTR, maybe I can go and get a new 2024 Challenger. So I started shopping for those. And I was in Florida visiting my folks for a couple weeks. And I think I spent half the time on the internet or the phone haggling with dealers, Indian dealers all over the country. You know, I wanted a 2024 Challenger Limited in red because I think the bike looks amazing, red and chrome. And, you know, I talked to several dealers, and, you know, there was just no love there for the FTR. I had a couple dealers telling me, look, man, you know, and knowing the FTR is not a great bike in terms of financing, you know, dollars and cents for dealerships, and we're not going to be itching to take one in trade, I figured I might lose a little money over what I owe on it, which would be even more money because I put, you know, I had several $1,000s of equity in the Challenger that I just plopped right into this. But even then, I figured, okay, a 2024 Challenger, Indian's offering $3,000 off. I can get them to lower it a little bit more, and at least it's like, you know, getting the Challenger deal, not just the Challenger deal and taking a bath on the FTR. That's what I was thinking, and I couldn't do it. I had dealers that had the bike I'd want, MSRP minus, you know, Indian's discount, who were like, you know, DMV SoloRider, we don't actually want to tell you what we'd offer for your FTR because it would be an insulting number. I mean, if you can believe it. Basically, they didn't want the bike. So they were trying to be like, oh, we don't want to offend you by this horrible trade-in offer. I had several dealerships tell me that. Oh, this is a fun little road. And then I finally had a dealership make me a, you know, a passable offer on the FTR. I mean, I would have lost, you know, $1,500 on it. And you know, their Challenger was just MSRP minus the Indian discount. It's not like the dealership was offering anything off the Challenger. It was really hard for me to justify. Basically, you know, once you factor in the cost of the bike, loss on the FTR, you know, this dealership wasn't even charging freight or anything. It was just, you know, price of the bike, $300 dock fee, but you still got taxes and tags and all that crap. It would have basically been like buying a 2024 Challenger for $30,000 out the door, and I really couldn't justify that. I told him, look, you know, you want to sell me your bike for, you know, X. I think it was like 24 out the door. They would have taken another $1,000 out of the deal, plus not charged me for sales tax. I'd have done it. I don't know where the hell I'm going. I'm just going. And, you know, they didn't go for it. Like, no, we think what we're offering is fair. We're not going to do that. And so, you know, there I am. I'm like, I want a bagger. Can't get a deal on any. And this whole time, I'm talking to Harley dealers, trying to get a decent deal on a Harley, but, you know, you buy a Harley for $29,999, whatever it is. And then they're going to throw all these fees and bullshit on you, and next thing you know, you spent $33,000 for a Harley-Davidson with 105 horsepower. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough. So yeah, so I tried to buy a 2024 Challenger, and that failed. Trying to get a sweetheart deal on a 2024 Road Glide up until, you know, June. No dice, wasn't happening. At least I wasn't getting numbers that I would have felt comfortable with. And I was pricing, you know, Black and Black or Whiskey Fire and Black. I got one Harley dealership at the beginning of the year, I think it was January, offered me Black and Chrome 2024 Road Glide. I think the sale price on the bike was like $2,100, $21,000. Which is pretty damn good. But then they slapped like $3,000 of fees on the bike, Then with tax and tags, you're at like 25 grand. And I was like, well, shoot, 25 grand for a 2024 Road Glide. I can go and buy a 2025 Challenger 108 for just a little bit more. Or, given what I was shopping for, I could get a 2024 Challenger 108 for the same price. That's what I was going for. So I started shopping for 2025s, and I saw the red Harley, and But, the Harleys are $2 grand more expensive, and I still have the same issue trading in an FTR. And, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it now. I don't want to sell the FTR first. Just the way it is for me. What can I tell you? Train tracks. And, so still got the FTR issue, and that brings me to Indian. There was a stop order on Indian Challengers, I want to say in December or January, like a recall, and Indian was not allowed to sell any. And if anyone's been out looking for a 2025 Challenger, there ain't a whole lot of them out there. And my local Indian dealers, they didn't have really much in the way of 2025s, 112s or 108s. They had some, leftover 2024s, but not in my precious red, so they were all non-starters. So I said, well, heck, I got a truck. I can always tow the FTR somewhere, so let me see who's got bikes. And, I kind of was doing the same thing about 2024s. Like, I spoke with a dealer out in the middle of the country. I spoke with dealers in the south for, the 2024 108s. Struck out with all that. And so I started shopping 2025s. And long story short, I had a dealer far away make me a pretty damn good offer on a 112. Basically, they were going to give me everything I had owed on the FTR, and they were going to take basically about $1,000 off the 112. So, if a 112 is, 3 or 4 grand more than a 108, they were going to make it just a little bit closer to the 108 price, assuming you could only get MSRP on a 108. And I was like, that's a pretty damn good deal. All things considered, given, my total failure until this, wheeling and dealing. So basically, I was going to tow my FTR down south and trade it for a 112, which I never, if I was just paying MSRP versus MSRP, I'd get a 108 all day long. So yeah, these folks were going to offer me a 112 at a price that made it attractive compared to the 108. Given that basically if you get a 108 and you upgrade it, it's probably about $5 grand. So I was getting the 112 for like $2,500, $3 grand, something like that. For me, it was a worthwhile concept. But it is asking a lot to put your bike on a trailer, tow it almost 1,000 miles away, hoping the dealer's going to honor their word. I sent them all the pictures of my bike. I told them, yeah, here's what I owe, here's what you got to give me. And they're like, we'll do it. But that doesn't mean that when I show up with my FTR, they're going to say the same thing. They could be like, we didn't know this, we didn't know that, we didn't think about this. And you're already 1,000 miles away. What are you going to do? Turn around and go home is your option. I just, basically it was kind of dicey. And so I reached out to a local dealership. I said, hey, look, I got this deal. I'm ready to do it, but man, I'm really not excited about the prospect of hauling this bike far away in the event that they change their mind, or, you know, it's BS. I had no reason to believe that they would do something like that, the original dealer. But, you know, it's always a possibility. And long story short, one of my local Indian dealers basically offered to match the deal. So, you know, no more $1,000 tow extravaganza, which is my own time, my dime. Just ride the FTR down, trade it in once they order a bike. And that's where things stand. They have this offer is outstanding, and it is available for me until this coming Friday. And I haven't pulled the trigger, the final trigger. It's beautiful out here, guys. I hope you're looking at the scenery. I've been thinking about buying baggers, not looking. But yeah, so that's where things stand. It's Wednesday, June 25th. I have till Friday to make up my mind and put the order in. You know, they offered me to match the deal, but it wasn't open-ended. They're like, look, you know, we'll match it, but you gotta order the bike, leave a deposit. Just take about 2 weeks to get here. More gravel. That 112 is a stunning bike. It's in my red. Well, they call it sunset red now. It's basically the same as my old Challenger. And for those of you who are wondering, you know, I've ridden the Harleys several times. I've ridden the new 112. Obviously, I have lots of miles on the 108. I like the Harleys. They still, even the new bikes, still feel, well, there's a puppy, still feel a little top heavy to me. You know, remember, I'm short, 5'5", 29-inch inseam, so shorter than average legs. When I sit on a Harley-Davidson, a road glide or a street glide, obviously I can't flat foot the bike. And when I put one foot down and my right foot on the brake and one foot down, my foot that's down is not flat. It's still on the ball of my foot. I'm not sure what it is, because I think the bikes are all pretty much the same height, 29 inches, I want to say, 27 inches, something like that. They're you know, shorter than this. I don't know if the Harley primary cover sticks out just a little bit, where I have to, you know, move my leg out a little more. But, you know, it just feels like a heavier bike when all is said and done. And when I went down to ride the 112s, sat on a Challenger for the first time since I sold mine. And I gotta be honest, guys, it just felt right. You know, that bike is just engineered perfectly for my size. And I really love it. And I would rather, you know, have my dithers. I'd rather be back on a Challenger than a Harley. You know, if I decide not to buy this 112 by Friday, if I get a better deal on a Harley than a 112, I'd go with the Harley. If I get a better deal on a 108, I'll get a 108. You know, I'm open-minded on which bike. The 112 full MSRP is a non-starter. You know, I love Indian. I absolutely love Indian. It's my fourth Indian. I might be moving into my fifth. But, you know, they're not Harley-Davidson, and there's no justification for them pricing their bikes more expensive than a Harley-Davidson. I mean, they are the heavyweights. If you're trying to compete, you gotta, you know, price has to be part of that equation. The only thing I can say about Indian is I don't think they're really trying to compete. I think they're trying to appeal to Harley riders who are just disenchanted with Harley. You know, okay, it's not Harley, it's a nice bike. Yeah, I'll spend a few grand more for this than a road glide or a street glide. That could be what Indian's going for. I don't know. They're certainly not selling a lot of bikes, which is just a shame, because the Power Plus is just sensational. And, you know, just to touch on the Power Plus, I did ride the new Chieftain. It's a beautiful bike. They did a really nice job with the fairing and the dash. It's very low down, which is great for a shorty like me. But, you know, I had plenty of buffeting on that fairing. I rode the Roadmaster, I rode the Chieftain. So I tried, you know, their super tall touring windshield, their super shorter, not super short, but their shorter, whatchamacallit, regular windshield. And it just didn't feel as good as a Challenger. You know, it is what it is. And, you know, if any of my longtime subscribers are watching this, let's be frank, Ride Command sucks. It's not a good system. It doesn't work great. And that screen is trifling compared to the new Harley screen, for sure. Skyline OS is really nice. Very impressed with it. But having already bought a motorcycle, you know, I traded in a perfectly good Chieftain for the Challenger because I wanted CarPlay like a schmuck. And while the Challenger's a better bike, and I don't regret that decision because of the bike, I have learned the hard way. You don't buy a motorcycle for any of that crap. You buy it for the motorcycle bits. Not the screens, not anything else. You can always slap your phone on your bars. Gorgeous. So yeah, and you know, one thing about Harley's screen, like when you're using CarPlay, it puts CarPlay on the right side, and then you got your speedometer on the left. You don't get 12 inches of CarPlay. Like on my Hyundai Santa Fe, when I put CarPlay on, it's the whole screen. It's 12.5 inches of CarPlay heaven, Waze heaven, really. But you don't really get that in the Harley. I think it's probably like 9 of the 12 inches is your CarPlay screen. So yeah, it's a little more real estate than the 7-inch Indian Ride Command, but it's a little off to the side. It's not 12 inches, and at least Ride Command is right in front of your mug. You know, it's like you gotta look. I mean, what am I trying to defend the 7-inch Ride Command versus the big fat Harley screen? I'm probably not doing a very good job of it, but you know, that's my thought process. They're all great bikes. I'm just, you know, I find the Indians for me just to be a better fit. And as much of an improvement as Harley has made on their touring platform, I think Indian is still a little better. The gap is closed. You know, I'm talking about how the bike feels, the weight of the bike. You know, the Challenger still feels like a big Scout. The Harley baggers feel a lot bigger than that to me. So that's where things stand. You know, it's Wednesday. I just rode back of the Dragon, and this road, quite frankly, like I'm on a bagger. Like, I'm not carving up these roads. This FTR is amazing. It's totally wasted on my riding, my preferences, my skill set. That's okay. Like I said in my other video, I knew that before I bought it. Beautiful. I love riding by water. It's just awesome. This is the kind of road, kind of ride, where you do a loop on your bagger, then you reverse it and do it again. It's like, it's such a nice road. It's so beautiful. You know, I couldn't do another 100 miles on the FTR right after doing 100 miles. Like, I need some some rest. But if I was on a bagger, man, you just go. Who lives here? What do they do? Maybe that was a hooker. Sorry, lady, I don't know. You're going out for a nice evening. I don't know. Oh, shoosh. What the hell is that? Not my best work, but it never is. Not when it's on video. We're back in the twisties. What? I was just enjoying my mountain highway ride. Shoot. Yeah, plenty of brake in these for me. Well, guys, we are a few miles from where we started. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed whatever this video turns out to be. This was Head of the Dragon. I'll put the map in my Google Maps file. You can check it out if you come down here. I gotta fix the Google Maps. They had us a little one mistake. But that's it, guys. That's what I got for you. DMV SoloRider is